in the gospel, the rich man and Lazarus. And how Lazarus suffers from hunger because he has to rely on the leftovers that are fallen from the table of the rich man, because every meal is a banquet for the rich man. He dresses himself in fine clothes, and his meals are a banquet. So Lazarus has to rely on the crumbs. And what that reminds me of is my grandchildren. They're in elementary, so when they get home from school, they're starving. I mean, you better not be a cookie. You're going to disappear. Yeah. And so the rich man doesn't have any regard for the needs of Lazarus. And also, when I used to visit the homebound, and I used to visit mostly the elderly, and they're on fixed income, so towards the end of the month, they run out of groceries, And I was always amazed that, they didn't want to call their children and ask them to help them out those last few days. They say, "Oh no, God will provide." And I was always amazed at the faith that they had, that God would provide, right? And He would, because they made it. Somehow they made it. And so I was saying 1 out of 5 children suffer from hunger. And 1 out of 6 senior adults suffer from hunger. And then you drive down Burleson and you see this huge building there. It's a food bank, the Texas Food Bank. And I bet it's almost a block long, and you can see that just by looking at the building that the tremendous need for food for people that are in need, exists. And we think about people like the rich man that has no regard for the needs of those that go hungry or are hungry. The rich man, after he dies, he suffers torment because he's buried. When Lazarus dies, he's carried off to the bosom of Abraham. And he reaps the benefits of a life of the poor that didn't have anything, and what he never looked after, because God takes care of the poor. And in the first reading, Amos complains to the people, the Israelites, that they're complacent, that they're eating and drinking and not worrying about their surroundings. He says you're going to become captives. You're going to become slaves. But you don't attention to that. You're drinking and eating merrily at the expense of the poor. You're not looking after the poor either. Because they're going to be invaded by the Assyrians. And they're going to be captive and slaves. And they're not paying attention to that. They're too busy partying. And that's why Amos criticizes them, because they're being complacent and not paying attention to their surroundings and to what could happen to them. So they suffered torment in a different way. The rich man suffered torment, but the people from the Israelites suffered displacement, and they became slaves of the Assyrians who captured Jerusalem. And in the letter of Timothy, there's Timothy, we always talk about Timothy fought the good fight, he finished the race. But I think here the reading is telling us that the battle that Timothy faced is not a single battle. It is a battle, a lifelong battle. He has to overcome many temptations, many obstacles. And so he's being told to preserve the faith and continue his fight. That way, he won't have to do like the rich man and call out and say, Abraham sent Lazarus to dip his finger in water and come and wet my tongue because I'm suffering torment. If we're faithful to God and faithful to our brothers and sisters, and we reach out and help them, we too will avoid the torment